I never thought my life would take a turn worthy of a soap opera script. But here I am, sharing something that once shattered me to my core. It started subtly. My husband, Matt, had been more engaged at home ironically. He'd offer to pick up the kids more often, linger a little longer when chatting with our babysitter, Alyssa. I thought he was just being friendly. After all, she was young, barely 22, and had practically become part of the family. Alyssa came into our lives during a hectic period. I had just returned to work full-time, and we needed someone reliable to watch our 2 kids. She was sweet, energetic, and the kids adored her. I trusted her. That trust broke in the most unimaginable way. One night, I was doing laundry and his phone buzzed. I wasn't the type to snoop, but something made me look. Maybe it was intuition. What I saw was a thread of messages between him and a contact saved under a fake name. Flirty, emotional, explicit. My stomach dropped when I realized the timestamps lined up with times she was babysitting. I confronted him, and at first, he denied it. Said I was misreading things. Classic. But I wasn't crazy. Eventually, the truth came out. They'd been emotionally entangled for months, and yes, it got physical. He said it started with harmless conversations. They connected. She understood him. I had become too distant, too focused on the kids and work. Do you know how insulting that is? I was distant because I was holding everything together. What hurt the most wasn't just the sex, it was the emotional betrayal. The idea that he turned to someone in our house, someone I hired, someone I liked. I fired Alyssa the next morning. She cried, told me she loved him, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that he made her feel seen. I wanted to scream. The aftermath was messy. We tried therapy. I tried to forgive, but I couldn't sleep next to him without imagining them together on my couch, or worse, in my kids' room. Eventually, I chose myself. I filed for divorce. I didn't do it out of revenge. I did it because I couldn't live in a lie. I couldn't look at him and not remember the girl who played with our kids while secretly sleeping with their father. It's been 2 years. I'm healing. Slowly. The kids are okay. I'm okay most days. I've learned that trust, once shattered like that, doesn't just repair. You build something new for yourself. From scratch. You never expect betrayal to come from the people you invite into your home. I mean, your home is supposed to be your safe space, right? It's where you let your guard down, where your kids laugh, where your marriage lives and breathes. And when that space gets violated not by a stranger, but by someone you trusted, it feels like the ground underneath you just gives out. I still remember the first time Alyssa came over. She had this bright energy about her. My kids adored her instantly, and she seemed like the kind of person who genuinely loved being around children. She was young, still in college, and I saw parts of my younger self in her. I even told her that once, during a coffee break when we chatted about life and dreams. I thought we had built a connection, a friendship, even if it was a professional one. That's what made it worse. When you hire a babysitter, especially someone who's in your home multiple times a week, you're trusting them with the most important parts of your life: your children, your routines, your family secrets, your safety. I gave Alyssa that trust freely. I never thought I needed to question it. And I certainly never imagined I needed to question my own husband in that context. The betrayal didn't hit me all at once. It crept up. Subtle things. I'd come home and find Matt still sitting at the kitchen table with her after the kids had gone to bed. They'd laugh a little too long. Share one too many stories. But I told myself, it's harmless. I didn't want to be that paranoid wife. I was exhausted from work, parenting, and just trying to keep everything from falling apart. So I ignored the signs. Until I couldn't. The night I found the messages, I wasn't even looking for them. I was grabbing his phone to set a reminder. That's all. But there it was, an unsaved number. Dozens of texts. And when I opened the thread, it wasn't just sexual, it was emotional. That hurt more than I can explain. There were messages where she told him she missed him. Where he told her he dreamed about her. Jokes they shared that I never heard. Compliments he hadn't given me in years. It was like reading a romance novel where the villain had my husband's face. And I froze. I was standing there with a laundry basket in one hand and my entire world in the other. Because it wasn't just infidelity. It was personal. It was strategic. She knew me. She knew our kids. She knew what hours I was out of the house. She used that information, and he allowed it, welcomed it, nurtured it. I confronted him that night. He went straight into defensive mode. Gaslit me for about 15 minutes, told me I was overreacting, that they were just texting. But when I showed him the screenshots I had already sent to myself, he went silent. Then he cried like he was the victim. Told me he didn't mean for it to happen. That it started because he felt lonely. That she made him feel young again. And I just stared at him. Not even angry, just numb. The next morning, I fired her. No hesitation. She had the audacity to look surprised. She cried, too. Told me she never wanted to hurt me, that she never planned for it to become real, that it just happened. That phrase just happened, I still can't hear it without feeling sick. Affairs don't just happen. They're a series of decisions. Choices. Boundaries being ignored, disrespected, shattered. It wasn't just a betrayal of my marriage. It was a betrayal of my motherhood. Of my home. Of my instincts. I had welcomed this girl into my sanctuary, into my children's lives, and she violated that trust in the most personal way imaginable. That's a kind of hurt that sticks to your bones. People talk about cheating like it's this dirty secret that lives in the dark. But when it happens in your living room, during bedtime routines, while you're out buying groceries or working overtime to keep your family afloat, it's a violation that feels almost surreal. It's like you've been living in a play, and suddenly you realize the script has been rewritten behind your back. And when both the betrayers are people who knew exactly where your heart was, people who... The thing no one tells you about being betrayed is how loud the silence becomes afterward. How your brain turns into a war zone where logic, love, rage, and denial are all fighting for control. I didn't just feel pain, I felt confusion so thick, it was like walking through fog every day. I remember after I confronted Matt and the truth was out there, I didn't do what I thought I'd do. I didn't scream. I didn't throw him out. I didn't pack a bag. I stood there in our kitchen with tears pouring down my face and asked him if he loved her. That was my first question. Not why, not how. Do you love her? And when he hesitated, when he paused, that pause said more than any answer could. Because if you have to think about whether you love someone you've been sleeping with behind your wife's back, then you already know the answer. That hesitation shattered me more than the affair itself. It told me this wasn't some stupid fling. It had weight, emotion, meaning. But the crazy part is, even after everything, part of me wanted to believe it wasn't real. That maybe he was just lost. That maybe I could somehow fix it. That's the denial I didn't expect, the one that creeps in not because you're naive, but because you're emotionally invested. Because you love the person who hurt you. And that love doesn't just vanish overnight, no matter how badly you wish it would. I'd lie in bed at night next to him, completely still, pretending to sleep. And I'd listen to him breathe, wondering if he was thinking about her. I'd replay conversations we had months earlier, trying to figure out when he emotionally left me. What I missed. What I could have done differently. I even started blaming myself. Was I too tired? Too distracted? Not affectionate enough? That's the toxic part of emotional betrayal, it turns inward. You start dissecting your own worth, wondering what made you so easy to replace. And yet, at the same time, another part of me was furious. How dare he? How dare he take everything I gave and feed it to someone else behind my back? But I wasn't angry all the time. That's the thing. My emotions were all over the place. One day I wanted to burn everything he ever touched, and the next, I just wanted to hold his hand and pretend it was all a nightmare. It's exhausting, feeling two things at once, wanting to stay and wanting to run at the same time. It's like your heart and your head go to war, and no one wins. I kept thinking about how he told me Alyssa understood him. That phrase haunted me. Understood what, exactly? That being a father was hard? That having responsibilities wasn't fun anymore? That I couldn't always be the carefree girl he married because I was busy being a mother, a wife, a woman holding everything together? Did she understand that I cried in the shower some nights out of sheer exhaustion? That I skipped lunches at work to make sure I could be home in time for dinner? If she understood him, then who the hell was understanding me? He tried to make it seem like it just started with talking. That they'd connect over small things, the kids, life, how tired they both were. That it felt harmless at first. And maybe that's what made it worse. It wasn't just sex. It was late-night conversations, secrets, stolen glances while I was folding laundry. They built something together while I was busy maintaining what we already had. It felt like he had an entire relationship hiding in the shadows of mine. We tried therapy. We sat across from each other in a beige office while a stranger asked questions like, "How did that make you feel?" And I wanted to scream. Because how do you explain to someone that your brain is caught between heartbreak and hope? That some days you hate him, and other days you still picture growing old with him? There was one moment I'll never forget. In therapy, I said something like, "I still love him, but I don't know if I can forgive him." And Matt reached out and held my hand. And I let him. Even then, even after everything, I let him. That's how deep emotional attachment runs. It's not logical. It's not clean. It's messy and heavy, and it drags you down when you least expect it. I wasn't just mourning the betrayal. I was mourning the version of our relationship I thought we had. I was mourning the version of me that believed we were unbreakable. And the worst part? I didn't know who I was without that belief. That denial, that emotional tug-of-war lasted longer than I'd like to admit. The hardest part about discovering betrayal isn't the moment you find out. It's everything that comes after. The quiet moments. The ones no one warns you about, standing in the kitchen staring at a plate you just washed, suddenly remembering she once sat at that same table, smiling at your kids like she belonged there. The shame that hits you, not because of what you did, but because you let her into your world so fully, so openly. And then there's the anger at yourself, wondering why you didn't see it sooner. Why you didn't protect your heart better. After I fired Alyssa and the dust started to settle, I thought maybe that would be it. I thought getting her out of our house would bring peace, or at least clarity. But it didn't. It brought emptiness. My home felt foreign. My routines felt meaningless. It's like someone had come in and rearranged all the furniture in my life, and no matter how I tried to move things back, they didn't fit the same way. Matt wanted to move on like it was some unfortunate detour we could drive past. He kept saying, "We can get through this," like it was a storm that passed and not a choice he repeatedly made. There were still things he wouldn't admit until I found the proof myself. More messages, deleted call logs, voicemails. The more I dug, the more it felt like I was peeling back layers of rot underneath what I thought was a solid foundation. But I got tired of digging. Tired of carrying the weight of someone else's secrets. I didn't want to be the woman who had to investigate her own life just to get the truth. I remember standing in the shower one morning, the kids were still asleep, and I just cried. The kind of cry where your body folds in on itself. Because I realized I was mourning. Not just the marriage, not just the betrayal. I was mourning me, the version of myself that believed in him. The version that made excuses for him. The version that convinced herself she was strong enough to forgive when deep down, she didn't even know what forgiveness looked like anymore. I kept trying to save us. But at some point, I realized I didn't even recognize us anymore. And worse, I didn't recognize me. The turning point wasn't dramatic. There was no big fight. No bags packed at midnight. It was quiet. I was driving home from picking up groceries, and the radio was off. My thoughts were loud. And I said out loud to myself, "I deserve peace." I remember the exact words. That was it. I deserve peace. Not revenge. Not closure. Just peace. That's when I decided to leave. Not to punish him. Not to prove a point. But to finally choose myself. Filing for divorce felt like failure at first. But slowly, I realized it was the first real act of self-love I had shown myself in years. I wasn't walking away from love, I was walking away from the illusion of love. From being second-guessed. From being lied to. From questioning if the smile on his face was meant for me, or if he was remembering her. People asked me, "How are you holding up?" And I'd smile politely and say, "I'm okay." But inside, I was rebuilding. Quietly. Painfully. I started going to therapy alone. I started journaling just little notes to myself. Things like "You didn't deserve it" or "Your heart is still good." Some days I believed them. Some days I didn't, but I kept writing them anyway. The kids were my anchor. They reminded me that I still had love to give and receive. That I was still needed, still valued. But this time, I made sure I was on that list too. I stopped putting myself last. I started asking myself what I needed, what I wanted, what made me feel alive. It took time, more than I thought, but slowly, I stopped replaying the conversations between him and Alyssa in my head. I stopped wondering what I could have done differently. I stopped blaming myself for someone else's choices. Now, I look in the mirror and see a woman who survived. Not just the affair but the silence, the shame, the gaslighting, the guilt. I see someone who learned to love herself enough to walk away. Someone who no longer lives in secrets. Someone who reclaimed her life, piece by piece, breath by breath. And that's not just healing. That's liberation.